we want to think that awakening is like the end of all discomfort in relationships. It's like we'll have the awakening, the seeking will go, and then our relationships will be harmonious. And this isn't the case, because you still have a personality. You might not longer be identified with it, but you still have a personality that is moving from billions of years of conditions and genetics, including your parents' conditions. So sometimes we think of awakening and we think that all conditioning and all genetics will fall away, but you're still going to have your same ways of being, which might lighten up, and you might barely even notice them because of the awakening stuff, but you're going to have your tendencies. So if your tendency is to avoid things, then it will more than likely be the same after the awakening. If your tendency is to chase things, to like insist on getting something, then that will be your way of interacting. And if you say have been taught by your parents that when people behave in a certain way, it equals this, like that equals untrustworthy behavior, then that's still what you will see in that situation. But you will know who you are, but you'll still have these projections. And you can endlessly clean up these projections, but well, you're looking through a human body, you're always going to have the projections of that body, otherwise you're dead. It's dead. This body is dead. That's how this body runs. It's conditioned, and it has these conditioned responses, just like driving the car. It's not like you suddenly wake up and then forget how to drive the car. And interacting with humans, we're the same. We've got these automatic ways of being. So we've got this automatic way of navigating the car on the road from many, many years of practice. And that's the same as being a human in relationships. And what distresses me sometimes, and maybe even I had this in the beginning at points, is that you think you wake up and you become, you lose those dynamics because you're so full of love. You can't necessarily see those dynamics, ironically. So you can't see you're backing off. You're just backing off, but it feels like love. Or you're saying something, but it feels like love, but maybe it's like something really passive aggressive or not very nice. But it feels like love. So if someone asked you, you're like, oh, it feels like love. Yeah, so you have to then really pay attention astutely to the body. What's the body saying? So there's two different worlds. So waking up doesn't mean that you're going to suddenly have a great relationship. So the question of like how to be in a relationship without seeking isn't seeing it correctly. Like if you want better relationships, yes, waking up like loosens that intensity. So it loosens the intensity of your feelings, of your responses, or it did for me at least. And it makes them a lot easier to navigate. But to have a better relationship, you need to understand what it is that your body is doing and how your body is responding in relationships. It takes two to tango. Always, no matter what. It doesn't mean that there's not somebody that's a perpetrator and wrong and done inappropriate things, but it always takes two dynamics to interact and to dance together. So what is it? What is your dance in relationship? My dance in relationship is often to be a little bit avoidant. So I will, when I say avoidant, I mean like to back off, rather than to run towards. I do run towards sometimes, but tends to be to back off. You know, and that can be distressing for your partner. Like, so say if there's a difficulty, like I will tend to back off or distance myself, and that can be distressing for the partner. That's not, it's not like there's a simple way, but that's like my tendency, and then the other person's tendency might be to run towards. So there's going to be conflict, and you're going to have conflict about, you know, so say if you want to buy new furniture for the house, you even though it might be mild and it might not be what you would call an argument, it could be, you're going to disagree on things. And when you disagree on things, you've got to navigate a negotiation and a compromise in order for both people to be happy. And that's not always going to be smooth sailing. Like, you're going to misunderstand each other. You're going to say the wrong things. And believing that you'll be infallible if you wake up is a dream. It's actually an avoidant dream. So it's something that I would have a tendency towards. So I tend to be an avoidant person. So an avoidant person will dream about escaping their partner, like waking up and then escaping the dynamics, these types of things. Like, so, yeah, like if I have a problem at work or with money, it will always be like how I can leave that situation. My defense will tend to be, and that's not the most balance. Like, you've got to kind of like deal with these things. It's not really unbalanced, like it's just as it is. It's like we all have these tendencies, and then another person will become like really controlling and really like trying to hold on to it and really try to work it out. So you can see how like this idea of waking up can go into a defense strategy. Like, when I wake up, I will not have problems anymore. It's like becoming free of everything. And that's not the way this world works. Like, in the flow of things, like one thing and the other thing are always touching each other and interwound. Like, nothing is separate in this. The person, like, to imagine, like, I'm going to wake up and then I'm going to be separate from all other people in a way, because I'll be a woken up person that's free, and all those other humans will have to argue amongst themselves. That's such an avoidant attitude. It's so funny. It's dirty being a human in some ways. And like dirty, I don't mean like dirty, disgusting. I mean like you have to get dirty. You have to roll in the mud. Like, it's complex being a human. Like, I'm part of a spiritual group, women's group, and because the time changed lately, we decided to, so the women that are in it, like, are other teachers in spirituality, and because the time changed lately, we decided that maybe we change the time. And it's not that big a group, there's like 15 of us, and it was so impossible to agree on something that we had to just keep it at the same time. It's not like we argued, it was just that everyone had different opinions of what they wanted. And so we couldn't come to a consensus on, even when we voted, like, there wasn't a consensus on the vote, so we couldn't even do that. Like, that's the way life is. It is messy, especially when you interact with thoughts. As you wake up and you become like less identified with being separate and with needing something in time to save you, to relax you, as that happens, then it becomes less serious. It can become comical, but there's just less, it's less important. Thanks for the question, Veronica. So mind tries to run away from nothingness, creates ideas of exits. Yeah, it tries to run away from nothingness. Because nothingness is like the ultimate fear for the person. It's like to disappear. The ultimate fear of nothing. It's like total loneliness and abandonment, but that's not the way it is, but that's the way the mind sees it. And so then it goes into its human feelings of being abandoned and then projects that onto the nothingness, but it's not the way it is. Like, one of our worst feelings on the human level is to be abandoned from the group. Thank you.